Hello, hi. Can people hear me in the chat? Hopefully, I'm live now. Give me a thumbs up if so. And yeah, you're joining us for another Drawn to the Flame live, which I guess is starting to become a thing we do now. Although Peter and I off air have just been talking about how weird that is. So yeah, we're Drawn to the Flame. We're a podcast all about Arkham Horror, the card game. I'm one of your hosts, Frank, and this evening I'm joined by.
It's me, Peter. Hello, Frank.
This is where we find out if you've unmuted your mic.
Yeah. I think we're good. So, and I've also got our camera live, so we should be able to see both of us
Yeah, it's
and hear
terrifying.
both of us. If someone in the chat can tell me that the audio is all balanced, okay, that'll be appreciated.
Yeah, mash that thumbs up button if
Mash
the
that
audio is
thumbs
good.
up button.
That's what people do, right? Yeah.
Yeah. We've got 5x5. I think that's cool talk for it's all good.
Cool. So thank you everyone taking the time to tune in and join us on a Tuesday evening. It's really cool to be here, and we said off air, didn't we, that we get excited about this kind of thing in the way that maybe we don't after 260 episodes of recording without anyone watching. My Kallax is way more 2D than than Peter's. Yeah, yeah. I need to punch some holes in it. Yeah.
It's just
We,
the screen that blocks out all of your. It's the board game collection, right?
yeah, exactly. I have to keep it out of sight. So yeah.
Entropy Freak is annoyed there's no new hairdos. Actually, I had my hair tied up, I think, on the stream with Philion the other day. So you can see the full extent of how long my hair has got. And
My hair's very malleable. Does that help? Maybe not.
I don't know
Yeah.
whether
So
that's
how are you doing, Peter?
a good
Before we dive
quality
in.
in hair to be malleable. um, yeah, no, I'm doing great. I'm off. I'm off down to London this week. Not for any reason that people might expect. Going to celebrate my in-laws' joint 70th birthday, so that's going to be absolute chaos. But yeah, no. Apart from that, I think everything's going okay. How about you?
Yeah, ticking over nicely. It's beautiful weather here in Yorkshire. It's lovely, sunny evening. So yeah, it's good. It's really good. Just before we dive in, just wanted to remind people if you're fans of the podcast, tuning in, like what we do, or have enjoyed our spoiler season, we don't often mention that we do have a Patreon. So if you want to become a patron of the cast, it would be super appreciated. I recognize lots of people in the chat already are, but we'll just shout that out as well. Obviously, part of what we do is talking to FFG, getting cards to announce, trying to do some of that work so that there's a spoiler season. And if you want to support us, that would be amazing. And we do have like an incredibly friendly Discord channel that's all about being into Arkham. And we, in fact, recently got interviewed by someone who works for Discord to work
Oh
out why our
yeah,
Discord was so nice, which was really fascinating.
yeah.
So
That
yeah,
was that was cool. I like that. Yeah, and just to um, build on what Frank said there, this is our last spoiler this spoiler season.
yeah,
So I guess the next you hear from us, probably the pack's released, right? And we're talking, and we've busted open and looked at all of the cards.
yeah. Imagine what that first look's going to be like. Bertes,
Yeah.
Bertes says, I'm sure you get this a lot, but you look way different than my mental picture of you.
Oh man, who's that? Who's that aimed at? Is that me or you?
Yeah, maybe both. I remember one
Be
listener
funny
saying that they were
if he.
surprised I wasn't in tweed.
Yeah. Be funny if Bertez had imagined that I looked like you and you looked like me, but exactly, and was just really
That, yeah,
surprised that way the other way around.
yeah. The dissonance, the
I was
dissonance.
sort of very close, but also exactly wrong at the same time.
And David Ryan Anderson says, that's impressive. I'd enjoy an episode about that actually.
About
What
community.
that? Oh, yeah, about the Discord community. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ah, well, I mean that's we haven't even planted that question in the chat, have we? I certainly didn't. But that is a great subject for an episode, and we've got one planned. We'd asked around our community about why what people get out of being in a community, not necessarily our community, just any kind of card gaming community. And we're working. A lot of people put a lot of time into giving us answers to that, and they haven't seen
Yeah.
anything come back of that yet. But you will. We've got a lot planned to talk about on that one. So Yeah, no,
Yeah.
keep your eyes and ears peeled for that.
Yeah, I think it's a good one to explore. I remember Maxine, she sent us a really nice note when we did Arkham in Flames along the lines of what is it about a horror, tough, scary game that inspires people to be so nice and friendly? And I just thought it was really like a great point, and it's stayed with me since then. So yeah. Anyway, we do have a final card to reveal.
Should we do it? Shall I
Speaking
press
of,
the spoiler button? It's right in
we've
front
set
of
this
me.
up so well, Peter. We've done this. We're talking about helping other people,
Yeah.
community, doing things for the team. So good. Okay, yeah,
Right,
hit that spoiler
let's
button. Why
hit that
not?
spoiler button. Boom! Martyrs Van Brace. It's impossible for me to respect someone who's wearing an arm cast. You look like a mummy from Egypt. Remove it! Um,
Yeah.
this is a shout out to the Crypt Drill account, who I just popped into my head this afternoon. It'd be fun to get them to spoil the card. Let's move swiftly past that. If you don't follow Crypt Drill on Twitter, you definitely should.
We're
It's very, very funny.
all about supporting other content creators, and Crypt Drill is one of them.
Right, let's do this for real.
Yeah, let's do it.
How do I do that? Oh yeah. Boom. Here we go.
Do you want to read this, Peter?
Yeah, I think it's my turn actually. Right,
it
we
is, yeah.
have Martyrs Van Brace, Remnant of the Unknown, and it is unique. This is a 2-cost, 3 XP asset with a willpower and a wild icon, and it has the item, charm, and armor traits. I've instantly slipped into my podcasting voice here, even though we're broadcasting live.
Yeah,
Because we do release these as podcasts. Right. It has the text, you get +1 skill value while resolving revelation abilities on encounter cards. Reaction, after another investigator at your location draws a non-peril encounter card, before resolving that card's effect, exhaust Martyr's Van Brace, you are considered to have drawn that encounter card instead. Has an accessory slot, it takes up an accessory slot, and then has 2 health and 2 sanity. So yeah, there's an awful lot on there. That's maybe the longest cost text I've seen on any card.
yeah. It goes on for a while. So one thing I saw on one Discord was please something along the lines of please don't let this be another card that disappoints Daniela. And
We've got
I'm
bad
afraid
news for the Daniela players.
yeah, it probably is a disappointing Daniela card. So this is a card where when I first saw it, I was a bit cool on it. And I think part of it is there's almost too much information on this card for me to take in at one time. Like, one thing that it took me really long time to get my head around is that this is a 2-cost accessory card that soaks 2 and 2.
Yeah, that's
So
really
two
nice.
cost for 4 straight away is pretty good. Well, better than the average. It can't soak for other people, but still that's pretty nice. And straight away you're just putting all of that soak into one slot, which is really good. And that's before we've looked at any of the other text. So that's kind of really nice just from the start. But that's, yeah, before we've even got into what it does.
Mm-hmm.
So where
Yes.
do you go with this, Peter?
Where do I go with it? Do you mean where do I
Yeah.
put it, or what do I think?
What excites? Yeah, the latter. What do you think?
I think what's subtle is now we'll cover some other cards in a minute, but just to as a sneak peek at those, I've always quite liked Tooth the Edsley, Edsley, and that gives you +2 skills for revelation.
Yeah.
It's for no while is it while resolving text on encounter cards? Treacheries.
It's just treacheries. Yeah.
And this actually it's better because it gives you +1 to all your skills while you do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the more encounter cards you're able to draw, the better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't do anything for resolving those. It just makes you better at resolving them. I like that. I think that's good. It's a build I really like in Daniela. Is like tanking the Mythos deck, taking all of the encounter cards. I have done in my last campaign. I did do the all 4 encounter cards dealt to myself as Daniela.
The secret play for first watch, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Just give them all
It's
to yourself and just tank that. And
I'm glad. Oh, go on, go on.
no, I think some people have mentioned in the chat. Let me handle this. Let me handle it. Let me handle this.
Let me handle this. Yeah.
Let me handle this. That's +2, and you can. It's like a one shot, but you get +2 skill.
Yeah.
This is once a turn, so a lot more repeatable, but it's only +1 skill.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that stacks up very well. If Let Me Handle This was the kind of effect you wanted in your deck, Martyr's Vambrace is almost certainly another card that you would want in that same deck.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm noticing chat coming around to the idea, of course, that this lets you get enemies as well as treacheries, because
Yes.
that's right. Both of the abilities are encounter cards, so it doesn't care if it's a treachery or an enemy. Most enemies don't have revelation abilities that force you to take a test. So the first text with the +1 doesn't really help you for that. But yeah, particularly the second ability, you could draw a card yourself that you pass, getting +1 to the skill test with the Vambrace, and then one of your teammates draws an enemy, and you exhaust the Vambrace and draw that enemy yourself as well. So that's kind of cool. It's like a let me handle this meets taunt or meets riot whistle just steadily. You can make sure you're always getting an enemy if that's what's happening, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, someone else in the chat, I'd gladly upgrade my two Let Me Handle This into two of these. I think, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, do we want to look at some other kind of relevant cards? And we'll
Yeah,
talk a bit about those. Let me jump
sure.
into
Let's do it.
this. Okay,
Yeah.
I've kept up Martyr's Vambraces there as well, so we can keep looking at it, how beautiful it is.
Yes.
Right, well, as I mentioned, to the Edstly, the Mortal
Hmm.
Reminder. Yeah, this gives you +2 stats, which are probably well
Probably
resolving.
the treachery stats, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but also it's a bit more broadly applicable, isn't it? So if you've got like a test on a treachery,
Yeah.
you could
If you're
use
trying
just
to clear a hex,
yeah,
say, during your turn, or you're trying to break open a locked door. Yeah.
or Frozen in Fear. You want to try and get rid of Frozen in Fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
This helps you while the Vambrace doesn't.
Hmm.
But then, you can still use the Vambrace to pull that off whoever is going to be hit by it, if it's going to be the kind of test that's going to lock them in place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Edsley has like a kind of it's a synergized with itself in that when you pass those tests, you also draw cards,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
nice. It's
Very
nice. I like it.
fitting Seeker card draw. Yeah. It, in many ways, I'd say the Martyr's Vambrace is pretty much an upgrade in all regards, apart from missing the card draw.
Yeah,
And as you said, the thing about its only revelation abilities. But yeah, it fits into that same kind of slot of I want my accessory to be in some way defensive and protecting me. And I know that you're a big fan of Tooth of Estley exactly for that reason. You put it down and then it does work all game for you.
yeah, yeah. So I think that's a pretty it's kind of a sort of route one comparison, isn't it?
Hmm.
Here's
Hmm.
one card. Here's another card that's quite similar to it, but probably better in most
Yeah.
regards.
Hmm.
Let's jump on to something a bit more sideways and look at Hallowed Mirror. Now,
Yeah.
why are we comparing these two cards, Frank?
We're comparing these two cards broadly speaking because of the slot and what you might be using in the accessory slot in Guardian.
Yes.
Guardian accessory slot is pretty limited. There is the riot whistle and the police badge as well, but and at higher levels there's empty vessel.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like, for instance, Rogue, where there are lots of cards fighting for that accessory slot or trying to beat Lucky
Yeah, I
Cigarette
was going to
Case.
say, try lots of cards fighting
Yeah.
to replace Lucky Cigarette Case.
But the closest card I'd have for that is the Hallowed Mirror.
Yeah.
I think if I'm trying to decide what to run in my accessory slot in recent Guardian decks I've made, it's normally been give me a good reason not to run Hallowed Mirror rather than seeing what else fits. And I'm a big Riot Whistle fan, but that fits in a specific deck.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that we need to think about if we want to run Martyr's Vambrace is it better than Hallowed Mirror, or not? Is it better, but can we get by without Hallowed Mirror? Are we thinking about Relic Hunter?
Hmm.
How does that work? Some of the things that I think Martyr's Vambrace does really well is it offers soak. So you'd be healing the damage with Hallowed Mirror, but with the Martyr's Vambrace you can be soaking, and in theory you're passing some of the tests, or at least failing them less badly with the Vambrace.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice.
Die in the Fire in the chat there has just mentioned Zoe, saying Zoe, uh, she can potentially get something out of the Van Brace there.
Yeah,
Of course, Zoe also has an accessory signature card as well, which you may
yeah,
well want to play. We did actually mention that when we were talking about this earlier as well.
yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah,
don't necessarily think Zoe's a bad choice, but you've got to make that decision. Are you going to want to be using her cross as you're playing? And I tend to think that's quite a good signature. So
mm,
I'd
hmm
be wary. Someone
yeah.
else,
That's the difficult one, isn't it? Yeah,
and in fact, the other thing Di just mentioned. Sorry, this is a bit of a tangent, but the 2/2 soak is nice when you combine it with the star as well,
yeah,
turning
yeah.
it into.
Totally, totally.
That's a really nice additional card to have alongside that, isn't it?
Feel like if you're playing Tommy and you're thinking about this in Tommy, it does tick lots of the boxes for that Tommy tank style of I would like most things to end up on me and deal with most things,
Hmm.
whether that's fighting enemies or taking treacheries so that I get injured by them. And part of my job is being the person taking all of the hits so that everyone else can get on with their day happily and untouched. There's obviously a risk with Tommy that you take too much damage on this and shuffle it away, but exactly for that reason, probably you're running the star so it can soak even more, and maybe you're timing it that you've then got more soak ready to play and you take the hits. I think you can make it work in Tommy with no problems.
Yeah, and I tend to think that style of deck, like a Mythos tank deck, because Tommy has access to Survivor, and I think there's quite a few good cards for Survivor.
Hmm
For that style of play in Survivor.
hmm
Test of Will, for instance, you could be cancelling stuff, especially
Yeah,
if you've got a Test of Will ready to go, so you've drawn the card
yeah,
instead, so you can use your Test of Will at that point.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think there's a few things, and then you bring the enemy to you. You take the hit from the enemy, which kills off something, which gives you more ammo for Becky, which then you can use to kill the thing that's
yeah,
appeared, that kind of stuff. So yeah,
yeah.
I think there's a really nice build using this in Tommy.
It basically is combining Cherished Keepsake and Riot Whistle
Yeah,
and Let Me Handle This almost into one card for
it,
Tommy. Like he might be running all of those cards, and this just they get all crunched together,
it
which is
wasn't
really nice.
even until we started thinking that I thought it's kind of like a pseudo riot whistle as well. So you can
Mm.
get those enemies.
Yeah,
Brill, right.
yeah,
Well,
totally.
we've got another card to look at, just as in terms of relevant cards. We've got First Watch, a classic
Yeah,
card,
so
one that you're a big fan of, I think.
mega fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, such a good card. Yeah, I love this card. I think the thing about this card is it's like you described with your Daniela play at the start, and what I've just been describing as Tommy. If you're the Guardian playing First Watch, often the power play is that you just take all of the cards yourself.
Yeah.
And it might be that there's one that's really difficult for you that goes to the rest of the party, but I think I've only done that a handful of times playing First Watch. And normally, what First Watch reads is all the other players skip the drawing counter card step of the Mythos phase. It's not you end up drawing them, so it's the same number of cards come out, but you just put everything on you, and that's one way that you can be really helpful as a guardian. That yeah, it's so powerful as an ability, I think. And what we see in the Vambrace is a mini first watch every turn. You in 4 player, you might have some difficulty of working out which card do I want to trigger the Vambrace reaction ability for, which do I want to get. But if you're in a good team who know what they're dealing with, you can probably work it out. And I
Yeah.
think having a mini first watch every turn is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So was it with first watch that you did the Daniela?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was yeah. And I had an enemy on me already And I think Daniela managed to deal with everything on her turn.
Yeah.
I think there was
Yeah.
like a kind of alter fate, fight an enemy, spend an action to discard a treachery, spend an action to discard a treachery, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Beautiful.
yeah, it was a great turn, and then obviously like it's one of those things where you don't feel like you're um, it's hard to see your impact on the progression of the game.
Hmm.
So if you're playing a purely defensive role, all you're doing is you're sucking up the effects of the encounter deck,
Mm.
and it's hard to see what the benefit is for the other investigators in your team.
Hmm.
But logically, the trend is that they have more action to do the things they're good at,
Yeah.
and the things they're
Yeah.
good at are the things that help you win the scenario, right?
You hope, right? Not everyone is somehow playing this tanks mode and fighting over the precious offerings of the encounter deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine this card to flip it on its head. This helped me anyway with Martyr's Van Brace. Imagine if someone you were playing with played a card that said one of your teammates no longer draws encounter cards.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And you could be doing that with Martyr's Van Brace, even in two players. I could be playing a Tommy or a Zoe and being tanky, or a Leo, say, and just say to my teammate, you just go for clues and I will take the hits. So, a great question here from David Ryan Anderson in the chat. The big question here is, does Carson want Martyr's Van Brace? Obviously, big assumption here. Can he take it? We don't know, or certainly I don't know at this point. But yeah, what do you think, Peter? Where does Carson fit in terms of Guardians who might want the Van Brace?
It's weird because my gut feel about Carson is you take fewer skill tests, right? And
Twos across the board.
well, there is that. Yes, you're pushing the skill tests onto the other players to test, and hopefully they're better at the relevant things than you. But it would seem odd to put a card in the set like this that was anti-synergy with the main character who can take it. There's been a lot of
Yeah.
speculation about whether Amina can take charms.
Yes.
And
We've
this is
seen charms on the sickle, the dowsing rod.
yeah.
Is charm gonna be her thing?
Your hot take. Can I share your hot take, Frank?
Go
Was
on,
that you,
yeah.
you thought that Amina might not be able to take spells?
Yeah. Yeah, I just wondered. I wonder if she could take charms, maybe she can't take spells. We've seen a few things that say about empty arcane slots, and historically cards that are care about empty arcane slots are not popular in Mystic because you fill your arcane slots. So what if there was a Mystic who really was incentivized, or not even incentivized, compelled not to fill their arcane slots?
Yeah.
That, that might work. Yeah. I think the the part I like about Carson taking this is it fits into the role of being a helper.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Biff the boss says in chat, pulling trick or treacheries off other players to free up their turn is, I think, definitely good. You just saying, look, I'll take the heat in Mythos, and then you're all free to take your turns.
Yeah.
But also, I can see Carson kind of getting stuck either with a nasty treachery or with an enemy,
An
and then
enemy,
really
exactly. Yeah.
struggling.
Yeah. 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 I
And
can
if
see
he's
that as well.
stuck with an enemy, he then can't be giving out actions to other people
Yeah.
because, as far I'm going off the top of my head, I haven't memorized Carson. He'd trigger an attack of opportunity every time he triggers his ability to give someone else an action.
Yeah, potentially, yes, yes. Unless they're like kind of, the dissonant voices and that kind of like neutral treachery that just impacts you on your turn, or is like
Yeah, yeah,
actions to clear, that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, maybe you're doing that. I mean, there's a possibility here that Carson does do some fighting if he can take big weapons and he's just using something that's giving him a really big combat boost. So he doesn't mind too much if he ends up with an enemy because he's going to get enough of a boost. It's possible. We've seen other lowish fight guardians like Sister Mary do fine at fighting when she's got a holy spear or whatever other weapon in hand. Maybe she's put enchant weapon on it or something like that.
Sorry, folks.
But yeah.
As some people have picked up in the chat, there was a cat outside.
Okay.
Just ask my wife to come and remove him.
Nice, nice. So yeah, I started by thinking who's the tank who takes the Vambrace, and I've come around to the idea of if you're playing in a party with a Guardian level 3 or above, why wouldn't you just build yourself to be really defensive and lean into one of the strengths of Guardian and give someone else a free mythos
Yeah,
every turn? Um, Particularly as if you go, I mean, there's something else we've talked about before, which is player order. If you, as the Guardian, go first in player order or make yourself lead investigator, use resolve your card, see how bad it's been, and then you've got the freedom to choose, okay, who am I protecting this turn if you're playing in a larger group,
yeah.
which I think is real nice.
There's a few people asking in the chat, Frank, does this trigger on weaknesses?
Non-peril encounter card. Weaknesses are encounter cards when they're resolving.
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It doesn't say non-weakness encounter card. So yeah. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Juffo Wup says Carson loves taking everyone's 2 actions to clear this treachery. True, right? Although most of those you can just clear them in someone else's threat area. But yeah.
Yes, yes, but
And
you,
yeah,
you could walk off with them.
the missing piece of the puzzle here is Carson's deck building, and not just about whether he can take it, but about what else that allows him to do or not. And I can see a position of being like, you know what? I'm going to run loads of soak. I'm going to take things on the chin. My goal is to let everyone else have as much time as they can, and this fits that perfectly.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything else we want to say about this card? We've got some other bits and bobs planned.
Yeah, we've said who takes this, what role does it fulfill, who wants +1 to their skills for encounter cards. We talked about, I mean, I don't know if we need to say more about what benefit you get from another player never or rarely drawing an encounter card. And we've talked about the competition in faction for this card. I think we covered it pretty well. Yeah.
There's always things we miss naturally, but I think yeah, I think that's a good overview. It was interesting talking to you the other day about this, Frank, because we'd sort of
Mm.
this was bottom of the heap in terms of spoilers we had to look at.
Yeah.
The big
Yeah.
one was really the last stream where we looked at Vincent,
Yeah.
and we sort of came off the back of that and we're like, oh yeah, we've got another card. And yeah, like you say, you were not not disappointed in it or not like unexcited by
Mm.
it, but a bit like, well, I don't quite know how I can't fit this piece into the overall jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah. Kind of lukewarm.
yeah, when we talked about it, I think you kind of came round on some of the tricks that could be used for it. Um, and I think like that niche of more encounter management is an
Mm.
interesting one that's growing. I think there's a few
Yeah.
more tools to play with it. I think
Yeah.
it's more valuable as a role in the team now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, wild prediction here. Will we see enemies with revelation abilities in the Scarlet Keys? I know it's not even a prediction, it's a question, but it's a bit of speculation. It wouldn't surprise me. We have a few times seen enemies with revelation abilities. I think there's one in Labyrinths of Lunacy that forces you to do a test when it engages you. That's something that's really not been explored in the design space.
Yeah.
So this would make Martyr's Vambrace even better. Yeah, I agree. You're completely right. I was kind of lukewarm. I think part of it is there's a lot to unpick here, and I hadn't done a lot of that. Part of it is that second ability is blank in solo, so I sort of read it and you know didn't really have my multiplayer hat on, which you often need for Guardian.
Yeah.
But you're completely right. I think that we both have enjoyed the playstyle of being the martyr.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well named, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, David Ryan Anderson's pointing out in the chat they think that some of the witches have revelation abilities in Circle
Yeah.
Undone.
The the little witches do, but the revelation ability is to discard the top 2 cards of the encounter deck, which isn't I mean you get +1 skill value while you do that.
Yeah, okay.
But there might be other specific witches that do as well. Can't remember.
Yeah. Okay. Well, should we move on and we talk about some other bits and
Yeah.
bobs? Well, the first thing.
So go on,
Do you mind if I take over,
please.
Frank?
I don't mind at all. No.
Finally, get my day in the sun. All right, I put our cameras back on.
Okay,
Um,
I'm ready.
so as discussed, this is the last of our spoilers. There's spoilers next week, I think. I'm pretty sure there's spoilers coming next week, but there's quite a
No, no,
few.
no, no. The last is on Saturday.
Oh, is it this Saturday this week?
Yeah, this Saturday. Yeah.
Right. But we've had a lot of spoilers. I think when I counted up at the start of the season, there was 40 something.
Hmm.
I might have got that wrong. There might have been some extra ones if people were revealing two at a time. And we had checklists alongside customizable cards, and we've had revelation cards. We've had a load of stuff. So yeah, I thought it might be nice to have a bit of a quick reflect on spoiler season.
In
Both.
first beta, the officially previewed cards count is now at
Oh
74.
my god, there's even more than I thought. Absolutely wild.
Yeah.
I thought it might be nice for us to have a bit of a reflect on spoiler season and how it's gone, and then we can pick some cards and have a chat about some of the cards we've seen during spoiler season that we're maybe excited about or want to talk about a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Sounds like a great plan.
If folks are ashamedly ducking out after having seen the spoiler, thank you for watching. But yeah, we're going to keep chatting for a bit. Come on, Frank, hit us with a hot take. What's your take on spoiler season?
You messaged me a few days ago to say let's talk about it, and I should have some thoughts. And
Incredible
yeah,
thoughts.
the is Drawn to the Flame finally going to react to the spoilers that have dropped? Yeah, what?
What we're going to do with the rest of this stream is go back over every card we've previewed, talking about every
Yeah,
other card, how it interacts with it.
yeah,
We're not going to do that.
yeah, and giving a review score for everyone else's previews. Yeah, yeah. Well, how do I feel about it? I think it's been amazing. It's been way bigger than I think I wrapped my head around when I first saw how many cards there were to announce.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had 7 cards to announce, I think. And obviously one of those was Investigator, which was super exciting and challenging and kind of cool to cover that many cards. But yeah, it's actually felt like almost quite a long time to be getting spoilers. Like it's a long season.
Yeah.
Do you get that feeling as well? I mean, I guess you do because you stop counting at 48 or whatever it is.
Yeah, it was a. This was my worry going into it because we obviously got the email right at the start saying like, this is how many are coming, and these are. I think we got a list of the main people who were going to be spoiling them. I think everyone who got more
Yeah.
than one. We'd had a list of them.
Yeah.
And then that meant we could put together some resources for kind of the community and the other content creators tracking like when they were coming out, which I think people have. It's been great to see people kind of enthusiastically take that up and contribute and pin messages and all that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, that was my
incredible.
fear right at the start was that it was going to be people were going to burn out, either content creators or fans of the game were going to burn out the amount of content, similar kind of content that was coming out over such a long period of time. And it's certainly my impression with my player hat on, is that's not been the case at all. I've been excited to see the new cards coming every few days. I've got like my close friends. I've got a little group chat with them, so I'm always excited to send them in the morning with the US creators. They'll get like 3 cards tuning into that chat.
Yeah.
So I think like that worry hasn't been. It wasn't that it was unfounded. I think it was just it's not quite turned out the way I was worried it might, which is really good.
The worry was burnout.
Well, it's sort of like people will just give up caring after
Yeah.
a few weeks. But they haven't. People have been really engaged all the way through. People have been really hyped for the box. There's been a lot of speculation about what's coming. People have engaged with how the content creators have wanted to do stuff in a really like fun way. People have got people have looked forward to seeing certain content creators in their swimming pool every week. But yeah, I think that's been great. It's been with my taking off my player hat and putting my content creator hat on, it's
Okay, yeah.
been difficult because it's taken up a lot of the pipeline of content we would want to do, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like I think people, there's maybe a little bit of expectation. We'll talk to Maxine after a cycle,
Yeah.
and we still got stuff planned for that. But it's not like something we've forgotten. It's just fitting that in alongside all the other stuff we've had to organise has been difficult, as well as
Yeah.
kind of keeping the show going in terms of just creating the regular every
Mm,
week, every month episodes.
mm, yeah. And I think that other angle of that is if we're doing a lot more previewing of cards, that's then affecting what we want to record as our other non-preview stuff.
Yeah.
If we want to do an esoteric devices or do a Dunwich first look, we might not want to because we've just been doing quite a lot of the granular talking about a card. So we'll try and pick topics that are a bit more open-ended or discursive.
Hmm.
So yeah,
I think the
it's
other.
really interesting seeing in the chat actually people's responses as well to spoiler season. Some people have felt it's been nice to step back. There's been so many that you don't feel like you need to be on top of every single one
Hmm.
because there's so many that it's not like you're missing the immediate hotness. And yeah, Veronica says preview season has been fantastic. I mean, I think it has. Like it's been beyond the wildest dreams of what people thought a preview season could be like. And it's new. That's the other thing that's so
Yeah.
we didn't know going into it what 3 months of previews for Arkham would be like. And it's been incredible.
I think the other kind of side benefit that I didn't predict at all was increased engagement between creators as well. I think that's been
Hmm.
really cool. Actually, David Ryan Anderson in the chat there is saying her experience has been really great, and I think exactly the kind of thing that the Arkham Horror community needs. The game isn't like NTG that can rely on community tournaments or any kind of non-cooperative game. Getting that
Yeah.
kind of organised play event is a bit more tricky. Requires
Yeah.
a bit more organisation than just turning up and throwing down some cards with other players. And I think that's sort of echoing what I was going to try and say there. Like
Yeah.
I've certainly been talking to a lot more content creators about stuff, what you're doing, when you're doing it.
Mm.
That's been really good, really positive, and I've engaged with their content a lot more than I would have had the time to do previously, which
Yeah.
I think is a real
Yeah.
benefit of the spoiler season.
I think one of the great strengths in the community is there are so many people creating content.
Mm.
And if FFG slash content creators themselves can get together and create these things for the community, broadly speaking, like 98% of the response to that has been really positive of this is really cool. I didn't know about that creator, or it's really fun to see this team up, or whatever else it is. Yeah. So yeah,
More team ups next time. I think we'll try and
more
do
team ups. Yeah,
cross
yeah, yeah,
pollination. Yeah.
yeah. Neramore says, I'm starting to get a sense of the faction themes now. Yeah, I think that's the other thing that's been amazing, kind of dribbling out as we see a card from this faction, then a card from that one. We're going to kind of talk about that in a moment. So yeah, and Crabble, first time chat from Crabble. Thanks for chatting, Crabble. It's really good to have such a long spoiler season because you get a feel for the player cards, but are still interested in what we miss. Yeah, totally. Like when we announced Sin Eater, not Sin Eater, Sin Eater, that that was so exciting for us because obviously it plays into the Doom mechanic, but no one else, sharing that piece of the puzzle was really exciting. So yeah.
Both Smutcher and Lord Batboy there have said the the having the discussion around each of the cards. As much as use the phrase takes the edge off a large drop of new cards, which I think is
Mm,
fun, especially if you're maybe a more like casual player of the game, and you
mhm.
haven't been sitting around waiting for looking at all the new cards. You know that when Vincent drops, these are the kind of decks you can, because people have been talking about Vincent for a few weeks now. In fact, probably longer than
Yeah.
that with Vincent, but there's a bit of like kind of community knowledge generated around the cards to give you a bit of a path into looking at the cards when you get the new set, right?
Yeah, that's part of what I enjoy about listening to other casts or watching other shows is hearing the ideas that other people are coming up with and then being inspired myself. So
Mm.
it's not this kind of pressure of I need to think of a Kaimani deck right now because I want to play with them and I don't know what to do. Like, go and watch Until the End of Time's video where there are four different decks offered for Kaimani, which is fantastic. So just again, it's the inspiration and like taking the edge off it. So are there some themes that we're kind of, should we jump into some
Yeah,
themes we're
let's do it.
into?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or that we're curious about?
Well, do you want should we pick your ones first?
Okay, fine. Oh,
So we've got Underworld Market here. I did.
oh, you can't
Should
see
we?
me on video anymore, but I'm doing shocked, shocked face. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, just very quickly, this is a permanent exceptional card. You get +10 deck size. Free reaction before drawing your opening hand. Choose 10 illicit cards from your deck, shuffle them together and place them next to the Underworld Market as your market deck. Reaction at the start of your turn, reveal the top 2 cards of your market deck. You may spend 1 resource to draw one of them, place the rest on the bottom in any order. So this creates a side deck of illicit cards that you can draw out of.
Your market deck, yeah.
Yeah. Can you remember who it was that spoiled this card?
Yes, this was Playing Board Games,
Playing Board
the
Games
YouTube
Pro.
channel. Did a really good video on this. I think they knew that they were onto a bit of a coup of a deck.
Their videos have been
A
great.
card. Yeah, just loads of energy and diving in, and yeah, it's been really good. So I like, obviously, I like the side deck thing here. I think that's really cool. I've really enjoyed playing Underworld Support. Gosh, is that what it's called? Where you go to one-offs,
Yeah,
you do a
that's
Highlander
right.
deck.
Yeah.
But then there's also now Underworld Market, which is like another weird way that it's almost like the Underworld messes with your deck
Yeah.
in Rogue. So I think that's kind of cool coming out. And then the other little theme I've picked out here that I'm intrigued by is on Friends in Low Paces and in this, there's this idea of spending a single resource to draw a card.
Yeah.
And I think it's a nice way of touching on some of what we know about Rogue. They get rich, or they should be able to get rich. And if you want to use those cards, there's going to be a real incentive to run rich so that you turn those resources into selective cards, which I think is really, really intriguing, basically.
Yeah, I think this is going to sound like a funny sentence, but using your resources as a resource. There's
Yeah.
great back in the day. There was a great Kevin Keegan quote about he's using his strength, and that's his strength. His strength.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your resources aren't just like your economy to pay for cards. It's like invested in different ways, and they kind of flow back and forward, and you can turn them into cards. You can turn them back into resources. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. We've seen that kind of in a mini way with Joey the Rat Vigil, where you could spend resources instead of actions to play items. But
Yeah.
it feels like that theme in Rogue is being more explored, or might be being more explored. I just think that's really cool. And then I think the other thing that's really cool about this is you choose the 10 illicit cards that make up your market deck,
Yeah.
which is really cool about then being you could only have 10 illicit cards in your deck and you know that that's going to be your market deck.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you can be selective about, okay, this is a more fighty scenario, I'm going to put my illicit weapons in the market deck if I've decided that's where I want them. Or you may be the opposite, I'll put my lockpicks in the market deck and leave them there and I won't draw into them in upkeep then because
Yeah.
I don't need to investigate. So it opens up all kinds of scope for kind of shenanigans in Rogue, which I'm here for Rogue shenanigans.
Yeah, and just briefly, Vinegary Mink there has just noticed that the art is similar to Aesop's Pawn Shop. Classic
Yeah.
Netrunner card there.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks, Vinegary Mink, for your first time chat saying that.
Dropping in with the Netrunner goss. Right, should we jump on to another card?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Apparently this one is Research Notes.
Oh, okay. This is one that you put in, right?
Yeah, I think I like this card. I think it's a cool card. I think there's a lot going for it. I like, just in terms of the card itself, I like that it lets you launder cards from kind of low shroud to high shroud locations. So you could use your...
Launder clues.
What did I say? Cards.
Launder cards.
Yeah, I meant clues. Sorry.
Yeah.
So you can use your Malison or your Quick Study or whatever it is to drop clues on low shroud locations, pick them back up with an action there, move up to a high shroud location, and you've got the evidence stored there to just suck up a load of clues off a high shroud location with a single test. So I
Yeah.
think that's cool, but I think, yeah, exactly. David Ryan Anderson in the chat there has said, research notes is another card I like to run in Roland. Well, I don't know. Anyway, but also I'm going to build a
Must be a
Butterfingers deck, so dropping clues.
fan made investigator.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I think it this to me represented something I said to you a little while ago, and I think that Di in our Discord had said the same thing. There's quite a few niche, slightly more niche play styles, which are getting this like an aggregate of support that's been building up for those kind of decks over the years we've been playing the game. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of them are kind of like reaching like a climax of or a critical mass of cards to really give you some options to build those decks with them. So research notes, and I think we might see another couple of cards. There might even have been another couple of cards previewed. I can't think off the top of my head that work in this kind of way.
Captivating Discovery is the one where you drop
You drop three
one, two, or
cards,
three clues, and you can draw 2, 4, or 6
six cards.
cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think do you look at 6 and then you pick to drop
that's
1,
it.
2, or 3 to draw 2, 4, or 6 of
I
them?
think that's how it works. Yes.
Wild card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
it does.
does
But
yeah. So if you did the drop 3, research notes gets 3 evidence just straight away.
yeah, yeah. Obviously, you've got to pick those three clues back up, but research notes makes that easier to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it,
A
you know,
single action if you pass by 3 or more, then fine.
it
Okay.
could just
Wow.
be used as a bank of evidence for Daryl as well if you want it to be.
Yeah, and that's the other angle here. You like dropping clues for Hawkeye folding camera, and we seem to not just be getting more things that key off dropping clues, but more rewards for doing it.
Yeah.
And obviously, one of them is the camera and evidence. And I'm really looking forward. It's a really nice meeting of theme and mechanics, isn't it?
Yeah.
That the survivor seeker is somehow like loses the evidence and then finds it again. It's like, oh wait, it was
It
here.
was here all
And
along.
it triggers with what newspaper as well, right? You might want to float along at
Yeah,
nearly
of
no
course.
clues and
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
like topping back up again. Like, I don't know, I did find it. Oh no, I forgot. Yeah.
um,
Hawkeye is limit once per location. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. But obviously if you have 2 Hawkeyes, both can trigger. And there's no limit on how much evidence can end up on the Hawkeye as well.
yeah, yeah.
So it is limit once per location. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So yeah, this is why I want to talk about that. I think there's a few, as well as the clue dropping, there's a few other kind of. I mean, obviously we've got Amina coming, so the Doom play Mystic is going to get an influx of cards to really solidify the deck building options you've got there. Illicit we've already mentioned. I think there's going to be, by the sounds of it, well, Illicit and Tools. We're going to get some support for both, using both of those kinds of cards. Yeah, I think that it's exciting, and actually the support as well, the pure support characters. Oh, and healing as well. We're getting tools to build like a dedicated healing character
Yeah.
who can benefit beyond just being able to heal better. Uses healing to generate tempo. I think there's lots of fun stuff. There's going to be a great deck diversity coming out after this pack.
Yeah, I think so too.
Should we-
The fact that already it feels like there's multiple different ways to take some of the investigators that have been announced is really positive, right? It's the strength of the card pool and the sense of things not being worked out, but being like, yeah, I do want to try I don't know, a fail Daryl because I can do all the fail tech from Survivor, or I do want to try this clue dropping. Yeah. You wanted to move us on, maybe?
Yeah. Let's jump on to String of Curses.
Oh, yeah. So this is another one I chose. Yeah.
Yeah. I mentioned this on the Reddit when I saw it, but it made me think of Mort from one of the best games ever made, Planescape Tournament, who is a floating skull whose signature ability is that he's so rude he can enrage folks to the point they have to attack him in hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
And like it's what's really it's very useful because you can use it on mages. So there'll be this like kind of 25 intellect mage like slinging off universe-ending fireballs, and this skull floats up and calls him a prick, and he's like rolling up his sleeves running over with a stick trying to hit a skull. Why
Yeah,
did you,
it does seem like that. Yeah, yeah.
why did you want to talk about this card, Frank?
So this fits in the Doom thing that we're seeing. The Doom, I guess it's an archetype. But to me, what I really like about this card as well is that we're also seeing Parlay get a little bit of love in this
Yeah,
box.
that's really
We've seen
interesting.
motivational speech as well. Is we chose not to pick a Guardian card here because we've just announced Martyr's Vambrace, but motivational speech is a parlay. An investigator at your location can play an ally, reducing its cost by 3.
Hmm.
And you know, parlay is so rare that people have had to remind each other. Remember, that means no attacks of opportunity. And I think it's really nice to see. We've seen cards like breaking and entering say this does not trigger a tax opportunity, and obviously that's an investigate. But it would be nice to see more cards that use parlay as a way of just saying, look, no attacks of opportunity. So this is a parlay ability. It's an auto evade and a clue for the
Hmm.
cost of a doom, or a resource card and an enemy killer if that enemy has doom on it. And so I really like that it has combat and agility icons because that's the nice reminder of the two angles of this card. The agility bit being an auto evade that's also a clue. Um, and I just think it's in some sense kind of a messy card. There's lots of abilities here, but I think it will be a really fun card to see in action and fun to see the Mystic being like, we can handle another Doom, right? Or, people have already pointed out that this against, say, Brotherhood Cultist is really cool because Brotherhood Cultist can build up Doom really
Yeah,
quickly
yeah. Or
whenever you attack it. And
what's
then
the big guy, the Wizard of the Order?
Wizard of the Order,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And for Wizard of the Order, it spawns at a location away from you, and at the end of Mythos gets a Doom. Normally, there is a sense of urgency. We've got to get over there. We've got to pass a combat 4, a fight 4 check to kill this thing. It's going to get Doom quickly. But you could have the Mystic stroll over, or if it's Luke Robinson, just pop into the gate box and play this from a location away. And not just defeat the enemy, but gain 2, 3, 4
yeah.
resources from it, depending on the do. It's
Just
just
like Luke whispering out the gate box. You're a prick.
yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So there are obviously other cards that we've seen that more overtly do stuff with Doom. The other theme we see is the choice, which I think's really a really cool little angle. So the sickle is, do you want to add a Doom for more damage, or do you want to do the weaker ability to clear Doom? And this one, I think the choice is probably even more delicious. Auto evade and a clue, but you doom the enemy, or kill the enemy.
Yeah,
And yeah, and it's also importantly, it doesn't say discard the enemy; it says defeat it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
That's a nice.
so for some VP enemies, you might want to find a way of putting a doom on it, like playing another copy of this, so that on a future turn you can just bleep, get rid of it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, should we jump on to the last card as well?
And probably Amina can take spell, right? If this
Yeah,
this is a spell. Yeah.
potentially. I was thinking about that, but we'll see.
Yeah. Maybe no spell assets.
Yeah, maybe no
Okay.
assets.
Yeah. What have you chosen for us as your final card?
This is pocket multi-tool pocket knife, Swiss Army
Mhm.
knife trademark. I like this
Fun
card.
fact, both the cards you chose were announced by the Spanish podcast Los Archivos de Arkham.
Yeah, uh, a really great bunch of guys over there. Big fan of them. Although I can't listen to much of their content because I don't speak Spanish, but I love seeing what they're up to on Twitter.
Yeah.
And actually, great to see Tengu and Plan get cards, 2 cards maybe to spoil.
They have one coming
One.
up this week as well, so they've done 3.
Okay, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
They did Girish. That was
what a
amazing.
card. Yeah. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like this card, but I kind of wanted to touch on customizable cards.
Yeah.
They're so interesting. I think people have had mixed thoughts about them. They're very complicated, not very complicated. They're complicated. They're
Hmm.
fiddly. They need a bit of rules text to go along with them. It's not immediately grokkable how they work. They might be a
Hmm.
little bit off-putting to a newcomer for
Hmm.
some reasons, but I think they're a indication of the flexibility you can have in a co-op card game like this. And I think they've got a lot going for them as well. I think they're a great way of investing experience in a way that you're specifically going to use. So
Yeah.
that's really good. I think it says something that almost all of them I've planned out a path for the full 10 XP
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
spent. I'm like, oh, well, my ideal version of this card is this, and this. And I think
Yeah.
that's especially funny with the pocket multi tool because it, someone's rocking up with their lightning gun or their their, their mystical key necklace or their hammer unearthed from Cyclopean ruins, and you're there
Hmm.
with, look how many attachments my pocket knife has. Um,
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, particularly customizable works for this card in particular in terms of customizing it. You
yeah,
know that you sometimes seen those Swiss Army knives that are like almost as thick as they are long
yeah,
because they've got
so
so many
many. Yeah.
things coming out of them. Yeah.
Um,
So yeah.
yeah, so I think that's they're interesting. I think they allow you to invest the XP in specific ways that I like. I think they're also for new players. While there is kind of an additional load on learning how they work
Hmm.
and tracking them and things like that, it's a great way of offering them a lot of deck building options with a kind of minimal card requirements.
Yes.
So we've got two cards here, three cards if you take one copy of the upgrade sheet and two copies of the actual multi tool, and you've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, including 0 XP just from taking one upgrade, and then you can start to combine upgrades to have different effects on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of the customizable cards, this one felt to me like the most obvious for how customizable works, because you're
Mm-hmm.
like, well, these are the extra tools I've got in my multi tool. So
Yeah.
it felt
Yeah.
like a great theming use of customizable to introduce
Hmm.
how it works. And I also think it's a really nice. I think some of the abilities now are really nice. I think was Crabble, uh,
Hmm.
Leet Crabble. I think that is meant to be. I don't know. Um, uh, Crabble had said it's excellent for spending low XP on a customizable card.
Hmm.
You could just, yeah, like they've said, detachable and pry bar. I think you've got not a bad kind of 1 XP equivalent card.
Mm.
Um, Fine, go for it. But you could also
Yeah.
spend a lot more XP as well.
Yeah, if you were to just add spring loaded, so that takes it up to 3 XP with those ones, because it becomes a reaction ability, you've got this card that is sort of protecting everyone for a treachery,
Yeah.
depending on who needs it, and you're waiting for the first person to fail,
Hmm.
and that's great. What you said about new players is so spot on. When I've taught new players recently, I've maybe brought some XP cards in a deck box to share with them, and I often find myself going to say Vicious Blow level 2, Beat Cop level 2 if they're playing as the Guardian, so that I can then show them the Beat Cop that was in their level 0 deck and be like, you could upgrade this into this, rather than showing them a bunch of different cards that would confuse them. It's mainly about like, look, XP can be used to make the cards that you already use be better. And I
Yeah.
think I think customizable does that one better, in fact. You could not even show if I was playing with a new player, they might say, "Oh, what does customizable do?" And I in theory could say to them, "Don't worry about that now. I'll show you at the end of the scenario."
Yeah.
Because while you're playing a scenario, customizable doesn't do anything, right? The pocket multi-tool in your level 0 deck, you don't even need the extra card. Some people in the chat says, imagine they're an Arkham DB coding nightmare. Um, they they definitely take a lot more work than a normal card, but I've done some correcting of them, but Zorba has done all of the heavy lifting in preparing them to go on, and Zorba has done like an incredible job, including things like the Raven Quill, where you get to pick a trait, or I think is it is it Grizzled where one of the upgrades is pick more traits as well,
Oh
something like
god,
that.
yeah. And Lord
It's,
Batboy's mentioned in the chat there, our theoretical Tommy Mythos tanking deck can take that Grizzled and the Van Brace and the Pocket Multi
yeah,
Tool with
yeah.
Pry Bar on it, and yeah,
Wow.
we're getting there.
Yeah, yeah, we're getting there. Exactly.
Okay, should we knock talk? We just hit 8 o'clock. Should we knock
Perfect.
talking about cards on the head, and we'll just do a quick roundup.
Hmm.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Yeah.
What are your final thoughts on everything?
As you can see, I've been pulling my hair up.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Molding it.
yeah, I just play with it all the time. What am is this final thoughts about spoiler season or just final thoughts?
Yeah, everything. This is it. We're done.
This is the end of the an era, end of Unlucky's spoiler season for
what,
us.
what are your final thoughts on Van Brace and spoiler season?
Van Brace excited. I currently don't have an in-person 3 or 4 player group. I think I'm just suddenly thinking, am I insulting someone by forgetting? No, no, I definitely don't. And I would really like either an online or an in-person group because it feels like a really fun thing to see and play and be really cool. And we've talked a lot about Carson off air, or we did when he was announced, and that whole like a Carson turn could be one action to himself and 3 actions given out to the rest of the party, and that's awesome and different and weird. And I really want to see that in action. So yeah, Van Breaks I'm excited about. How about you?
Yeah, I'm interested. I like that Mythos tank style. I don't know whether I will play it again now because I've not long finished a campaign playing as Daniela, running that kind of style.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. Some of the cards, some of the Survivor cards coming out, like someone mentioned Grizzled there, which I'm quite keen on. The
Hmm. Hmm.
pocket knife I'm keen on as well. If looking at those cards doesn't suggest to me a Daryl deck, may well go back to Tommy. And I don't have that much experience playing as Tommy, so could be a
Mm.
good chance to dive in.
Entropy Freak says, Frank, there's a great friendly Discord where you can find folks to play with. It's called Drawn to the Flame. If I find my way there, I should ask people. Yeah,
And
yeah,
spoiler season, I guess. Like I think it would be interesting to return to the kind of discussion we had just earlier. I spilled some guts there, Frank. I hope I didn't say anything too controversial.
yeah. Hmm.
It'd be interesting to return to that kind of chat. I think October, November, December time.
Yeah.
See how the dust has settled a little bit. Seeing if we've still got the kind of engagement that has been going on these past few weeks
Hmm.
with everyone talking
Hmm.
about new cards.
Yeah. Yeah. Lord Batboy says, sincere thank you to all the content creators for spending their time to bring previews to the community and that they felt closer to the Arkham community for the past 3 months and been exposed to some great creators I never knew about.
That's the
That's
dream.
incredible.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
dream of it. Yeah, and I think there's been some key folks like Veronica from Until the End of Time who's in the chat who've really helped tie things together.
Yeah.
My friend has called groups like Mythos Busters and Until the End of Time as well, I think, as like community glue.
Yeah.
People who
Absolutely.
create those communities and really let people stick together.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the one thing to acknowledge with spoiler season is there are some creators who didn't get cards
Yeah.
and either were upset about that, or I don't want to put feelings in their mouths if they didn't feel those feelings, but who wanted to be involved and weren't.
Hmm.
And I think that's something that I would obviously like to change in future. I don't know if there'll be another spoiler season, but I would like to think it could be even more people involved and yeah, even bigger in that regard. And I think the more people are involved, the better it is. And I think that range of seeing people announce cards in different ways is really good, like really healthy. Um, Veronica says, I'd love it for FFG to have something on their page for preview season. Yeah,
I think
it's
like the
yeah, I would too.
yeah, I think that would be great. I think FFG have still got bugs to work out in terms of engaging with content creators,
Hmm.
and a kind of mutual promotion. Um,
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
don't want to say anything too much on that. For fear of having someone FFG in the chat and then
Yeah.
fired
Yeah.
into the sun.
We'll have our lawyers say what
That's
needs
right.
to be
Yeah,
said. Actually,
yeah.
yeah, it's a tricky one. I hope people in the chat can read between the lines. It's an awkward situation to be in. Not in a like,
Mm.
oh, woe is us, but we just have to be careful in that regard. And we're balancing up. Like, I want to stay on good terms with them because I think preview season is a good thing to have.
Yeah.
Do I think it matters if we're the ones giving out the cards and sharing them? I don't think so. Um, but I would like people sharing cards, and it seems like the community love it. So yeah, that would be good.
If you've
Um,
got any final questions, if you got any final questions, chuck them in the chat just as we're
yeah,
rounding up,
yeah.
and we'll try best to answer them very quickly.
Try my best to fill the tumbleweed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Someone at work the other day said what the phrase he used was, he doesn't know how much
Thanks, David.
doesn't know how much tumbleweed has passed under the carpet. And
What?
I was like, that was from context. He was saying a lot of time has passed,
And he
and
said they
lots
don't
of
know how
things.
much tumble.
Yeah, and the way he phrased it was a lot of tumbleweed has passed under the carpet or something like that. And I was like, that's fascinating because it doesn't sound like it sounds like a phrase. He's nailed the kind of cadence of an idiom,
And
but
yet it
it's
makes no
almost
sense.
it almost makes no sense. But a lot of the elements of it, like tumbleweed passing,
Tumbleweed. Yeah.
indicate the passage of time. So he's somehow crafted a likely sounding idiom that I know exactly what it means while still being meaningless. That was quite impressive. We have got. Thanks so much for the last 3 months. No. From Exopen, thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah.
Entropy Freak. This is the one I was trying to read. Will there be a face check? Think on your feet for the Scarlet Keys.
I'm enjoying face checking Dark Matter so much that I am tempted. Yeah. The backlog for Think on Your Feet is growing because we've not done Edge of the Earth yet, or Return to TCU, or Innsmouth. So there's stuff to do. We done Dream Eaters? Yeah, we did Dream Eaters together, didn't
Yeah,
we?
we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good fun.
Yeah. So there's things to do, but I think it could be a really fun thing to do. I wondered about it for Edge of the Earth and then wasn't sure about would people like it because would they have played at the same pace I play at. But I think I'm so slow with doing them just because it takes a long time to record them and then edit them that I'm not going to end up bringing out episodes before people have played, really. So yeah, I hope so.
Favorite.
Favorite spoiled card until now, Peter?
I'm literally opening up Hall of Arkham so I can scan down the list. It's probably one of the ones I've picked. It's a difficult one. I think there's quite a lot. I'm filling for time here if that's not obvious.
Yeah,
As I
I
scan
wonder
down the
if
list.
does Scrabble mean favorite card that we announced? Because we had some good ones. Damning Testimony as well. We've not mentioned.
Yeah. We deliberately didn't mention that.
Yeah.
Because it was a bit tooting our own horn there. I think I really like Sinita in terms of just raw power.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
I think that's a good one. Right, I've closed that now.
I think you killed the. Yeah, it's back now. I think Hall of Arkham killed the stream
Oh
there.
wow, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So the other question, Veronica has asked two simultaneous questions, which I'm going to ask us both at the same time. Which of the core set or the Hall of the Scarlet Keys investigators are we most excited to play with in the Scarlet Keys? I think that was the question.
Yeah. Scarlet Keys, Daryl solo, maybe Quick Learner being a weird deck.
Man, that's sort of what my answer was going to be.
Core set. Can Agnes do stuff with the Doom? I don't know. Maybe Daisy with the evidence stuff.
Well, I thought Daisy research notes.
Just say skids. Skids.
Just say skids.
Oh wait, is this for bingo? Are we being lured into answering?
What? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
absolutely foul. That is.
Yeah.
Honestly, Daisy with research notes. I think there's a fun deck there. Veronica has assured us it's not bingo.
Okay.
But we're not falling for that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
damning testimony skids is definitely a thing, right? It's a nice investigative tool for skids, so why not?
and
Yeah.
then from the new set, there's quite a few. I'd started off with some firm favourites.
Charlie.
Not Charlie. Weirdly enough, Charlie's the only one. I don't dislike Charlie, but he's the only one I'm not like, oh, I've got a deck I want to build for him straight away.
Hmm.
I'm assured he's good. You assured me he's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
So
I've been playing some Charlie.
he's very much in that category, like Smutcher mentioned a while ago. Like, um, let other people do the hard work of figuring out what it means,
Yeah.
and then kind of come along later and make the final tweaks and claim all the glory. No,
Yeah.
I think it was Amina and Carson I was initially excited for, but having considered things, I don't know whether Daryl just uses a lot of cards I really like.
Hmm. Hmm. There's the Daryl like heavy evidence clue dropping thing. There's Daryl dropping difficulty to zero
Yes,
with
him.
improvised and exploit weakness,
Yes, and his
which
ability.
is kind
Yeah,
and his ability, which is kind of cool.
yeah, I like the sound of that.
There's like I think they're two separate decks. Maybe they're the same deck mashed together, but both are really fun in my head anyway. So yeah.
I was less interested in Kaimani, although I know a lot of people are really excited for them. Um, but on I did think about a Kaimani deck the other day, and I was like, "Ooh, I could give that a
Yeah.
go."
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if there's any other questions, you've got a few seconds left to ask them.
Wow.
But otherwise,
Clock is ticking.
the clock is ticking. Frank, have you got anything else you want to add?
No, I'm
Bro,
good. We've
okay.
done a good effort here.
Players out, keyboard cat. That's your.
That's my cue.
Yes, your cue to
I'm
start.
keyboard cat.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If you want to find out more of our stuff, we're Drawn to the Flame on Facebook, Twitter, Designed by Humans. We're on Patreon as well. So you can come and find us on Patreon if you want to become a patron if you're not already. Thank you so much to all our patrons. And yeah, we'll catch you for more Scarlet Keys discussion, for more Scarlet Keys hype in future episodes, and everything else we do as well. So yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.